What's up, blasters, and welcome to this video. In this video we're going to do something different. Today I'm going to show you what I've been up to in the last couple of days. I've been playing Titan Quest 2. It's a new action RPG and I have to say it's really amazing. I have a lot of fun playing it, and I've been playing Titan Quest 1 in my childhood and it has always been super cool for me, especially because I'm also half Greek and I do like Greek mythology in general. I want to show you today what I've been playing in Titan Quest 2. I have played multiple characters at this point, and I have played 3 characters to level 40, which is the maximum level. And I want to show my most favorite build that I've played, which is Trickshot. Trickshot with Rogue and Warfare combined. This is the Reaver subclass. And it's an incredible build which has around 200k DPS, and you can farm every boss in the game with this with no problem. And it's also a great build if you just want to keep exploring, and it's also a great build to play for leveling because it's a lot of fun, doesn't require much gear, and it's very easy to play overall. So our main damage skill is Trickshot. We use the ranged weapon upgrade of Trickshot to make it benefit from our ranged weapon, and we focus the build a lot around pierce damage and trying to get our crit chance to 200% to get the hyper crit going. And this is what we're generally aiming to do. You have to position yourself in a certain way so you can line up the shot with the monsters in a single line, and then have a single shot pierce through all of them and kill them. For bosses, it's slightly different. For bosses, you want to position yourself in a certain way that you can get the mark on the boss and then just shoot away. There's a few differences between the bossing variation of the build and the variation of the build where you're just, playing in the overworld. But if you want to really juice out the bossing, then I'm going to showcase how to do that and how to farm Pan, especially. That's the boss that you want to farm for the best amount of rare items and potentially epics, and also gold. Let's get right into it. So overall in this build, we are going to focus all of our investment points into agility, all of our attribute points. You can take some vigor as well, but I found that it is not necessary to spec any vigor at all. Just having vigor on one piece of gear, which is the chest armor, is usually enough to stay alive, especially when your resistances are maxed out. There's also a version of this build where you spec into might instead of agility, because with might you could theoretically also use a heavy bow, which has a little bit higher base damage but less attack speed. So it overall comes down to what kind of bow do you find with the right stats and how do you want to play it. You can also go for a split for around 207 might and 207 agility. With that you will have all of your points still maxed out in fitness, which is the most important stat here because we are dealing pierce damage. And cunning is quite nice too, because there is some poison damage in the build, but the most focus is on pierce damage and vitality damage. So as our masteries, we're picking Rogue and Warfare, and the core section we are only putting points into our dodge. I have 9 points in here in total to unlock 3 ranks of celerity for more attack speed and move speed, and also the dash tag to get more damage in general and also increase crit chance. This is important because we want to get to 200% crit chance as soon as we can. For leveling, it's great to start out with points in dodge, because at the beginning of the game you're rather slow, and to have 45% movement speed increase is very nice at the beginning of the game. You want to mostly focus your divinity points on Rogue first, so you can unlock Vanish, which is a very strong skill because it has inbuilt movement speed, and it also has other benefits, like giving you even more attack speed and cast speed, even more movement speed, and it's a huge damage boost through Deadly Strike and the Lifesteal rune, which you can use to deal insane amounts of vitality damage while also healing yourself. If you're not doing bosses, it's also fine to put the points from Deadly Strike into Enhanced Duration instead, so you can have Vanish active basically all the time and have a lot of mobility throughout traversing through the first act and all the other zones you might want to go through. Our main focus is obviously Trickshot. For the bossing variant, I have all the points in mark focus because, well, if it's only a single target, putting the mark on the boss is quite easy and then you get all the damage benefits. If you're mostly just running other stuff and farming whatever else and it's not a boss and you have multiple targets, then it's usually fine to pick enhanced damage, maybe 1 point interrupt, and get your crit chance to 200% even though you are not using a mark. or you are not using your dodge. What does that mean? Well, the mark is a thing you have to put on a single target. You have to reapply it per target. It doesn't spread or anything. And it lets the target take increased damage. And if you take the passives from Dismantling Tactics, you also deal increased damage to your marked target. The marked target also has less resistances, and you have increased critical hit chance against them. This is we picked this rune here for bossing because we want to have 200%. And if you add a little bit here to the 138, combined with the bonus that you get from dash, it's not additive, the bonus. You have to do a little bit of calculation how to find it out, how to get to 200. But in general, with this combination and some crit chance on gear, you will have an easy amount to determine how much it actually is. If you're standing in town and you're using your dodge real quick, you can see, okay, it's 189%. And the 40% additional crit chance that we get here, which is again not additive, but instead added to the total increase to your critical hit chance, will bring it to just over 200% just fine. Other than that, the star of the show is obviously Preparation. Preparation is really, really cool because it converts all your damage, all your weapon damage into pierce damage, and that means that all of your flat damage bonuses are converted to pierce damage, and then you get all the biggest benefit from increasing your pierce damage overall. We also pick up weapon coating and a little bit of conservation, so we don't reserve as much energy. Weapon coating is quite cool because it's just an additional damage source, and it's very strong in general. There could also be a consideration to pick up enhanced critical hits, but the increased critical hit chance is quite low with 10%, and the 4% critical damage multiplier is not as strong when you are aiming for the super crits anyway. We have Flicker for mobility, where we pick up the cooldown charge just to move a little bit quicker. And as for the passives, we pick up mostly the base passives here for critical hit chance increase, more critical hit damage multiplier, and more attack speed and cast speed as well. On accuracy and the beginning of the game, you can also pick up high critical hit chance. This is quite nice because you want to guarantee killing monsters in one hit, which usually happens when you crit them during leveling, when the monsters are like level 10 or something. And you can get your crit chance to 100% on Trickshot, even at as low as level 6. So when you pick up high critical hit chance and you pick up the enhanced critical hit on Trickshot itself, you will basically crit all the time and usually one-shot any enemies that are not bosses or tougher ones. Picking up Anatomy here for more pierce damage and pierce penetration is very strong too, because all of the damage is pierce damage. And then we have Sleight of Hand for more damage with weapon attacks, more attack speed, more crit chance. And another cool one is Taste for Blood, because it increases your vitality damage. While vitality damage is not increased by attributes, Taste for Blood is quite strong to do that instead, because we have a lot of vitality damage from Vanish. And we have a lot of vitality damage from the Battlefield Awareness Sustained active, which also gives flat vitality damage. So that's quite nice. Early on, you can also pick up enhanced resistances when you feel like your gear is not handling your resistances quite well to 60%. It's also fine to pick that up here, or to pick Inspiration if you need more energy regeneration, but I personally have found that Conservation works a little bit better for that, just because it's quite good to have a bigger energy pool. Right, on the passives for Warfare, we pick up Weapon Proficiency, just for more damage and attack speed, and also more critical hit. We only pick up 6 points in Martial Expert, because we just take physical damage here, and we could also bring this up to 12 to also get the pierce damage increase, but the increase here is only 4% per level, and we get more benefit from putting the other 6 points maybe in Max Mark, Dismantling Tactics. If you're not farming bosses specifically, you can also remove the points from Dismantling Tactics and just put them here, and put them into Taste for Blood. And that way you will have a little bit more of a consistent damage, because when you are just out and about and farming, you don't want to place your mark on everything, and it works just fine if you focus more on flat damage than to actually increase your damage against marked targets. And then there's also Marksmanship, which is a good passive to pick up. Again, 5 points here that are missing could also be invested if you remove all the points from Dismantling Tactics, because then you will have just a little bit more of a consistent damage increase, and while the last 2 runes are not quite important, I just would pick up speed and range, especially for farming. It's quite useful. We have infinite penetration anyway, so we don't need increased penetration here. Alright, as another active, we also have Leap, which we just use to traverse a little bit faster. If you're not doing the bossing variant, you can also put points in cooldown charge or escape, just to have a little bit more uptime on your mobility skills. And for bosses, you want to pick Doomhorn because you can increase the damage against them with Frail, and maybe also a little bit of more range. If you're usually standing a little bit too far, then long range does help to still reach the boss. But Frail is really good because it decreases the enemy damage resistance, and if you put 3 points on it, it's at 24%, which is quite a big multiplier to your overall damage. So let's talk about the gear a little bit. The most important piece for this build, and I think the build is really hard to play without it, is the epic necklace Moonclaw. You can get away by just using a necklace with just energy regeneration and flat energy. That is a good substitute for Moonclaw if you don't have it. I got lucky and I got a level 16 Moonclaw right off the bat. And then I gambled for level 41 at the Gambler in the Farmland Crossroads. That is over here. It's a scavenger. You can gamble for amulets there, and as you are not getting any white amulets, it's actually quite easy to get Moonclaw or one of the other 3 amulets, one of the other 2 amulets respectively. With this build, it has everything that we want. We have pierce damage, it has increased critical hit, and the recovery of energy on critical hits, because we crit all the time, is quite potent. Therefore, we also want to have a big maximum energy pool to make sure that we also recover a lot of the energy while shooting. Right, in general, otherwise on the gear, you mostly want to have pierce damage as flat damage on your rings. And ideally, you want to have critical hit chance, plus energy, and either physical damage % or just flat energy in general. I don't have the perfect rings here because getting them is quite rare actually. But this one has 2 stats that I want, and it's pierce damage and increased critical hit chance. The fire resistance is not bad, I don't mind at all, but having flat energy instead of energy barrier would be even better. On the other ring, we have 3 good stats, weapon lightning damage. Again, this should ideally be pierce damage, but I haven't found one with the perfect stats yet. Cold resist, I don't mind. It has flat energy, which is cool. It has increased critical hit chance, which benefits us. And again, cooldown reduction or flat physical damage would also be great. The most important thing, I think, is just to have flat weapon damage of any kind. Pierce damage is obviously the best because we have a lot of pierce damage to scale it. As you can see here, we have around 288% pierce damage, so we definitely want to make sure that we stack most, if not all of our bonuses on pierce damage. That being said, the most important piece is also the bow. On this bow, it doesn't have the perfect amount of flat pierce damage in itself because it also has lightning damage mixed in, but it does have flat pierce damage as an FX and 48% increased pierce damage, which is why I'm actually using it. The increased poison and lightning damage is not as great, but it does certainly help, and so does the increased critical hit chance. Again here, I think instead of the increased poison and lightning damage, you would want flat physical damage, or attack speed is also fine. But the most important thing to look for on the bow is actually the 5% base weapon critical hit chance. That makes it a lot easier to reach 200% critical hit chance on your Trickshot. Alternatively to the agility bow, which is a Toxo called here, you could also use a heavy bow. And that's what I said why we would want 209 might instead to be able to equip that. As you can see, this bow does have slightly higher base damage but less attack speed. But it also requires you to have might instead of agility, and these are usually a little bit harder to find. And I think for general gameplay, the attack speed, the agility bow with a little bit more attack speed actually feels better to play. Although there is a case to be made for the might bow as well. If you end up going might or fit or agility, really depends on what your gear looks like. I think in an ideal scenario, you would probably want a split of 209 to 209, so you can equip either bow with what you want. But you would lose out a little bit of cunning, and whenever you have poison or lightning damage on your build or your gear, you would suffer a little bit of a damage loss there. For example, preparation does give you poison damage, so losing out a little bit of that would be not really ideal, but it doesn't really matter in the long run. So basically go agility or might, depending on whichever bow you find and whatever suits your whatever other gear pieces you find that match. Right, now that we talked about the bow, other important pieces are the helmet, where we want increased cooldown rate. Instead of the pierce armor here, you would want another resist maybe, or health, just to be a little bit more sturdy. The minus energy reserved is good. Cooldown rate is quite important here because we want to make sure that our mobility skills, and especially Vanish, more important for exploring, less so important for bossing. because for bossing it doesn't really matter too much, because we only use Vanish once and then the boss is dead and it's fine. Right, this is a medium armor piece. Ideally you would want light armor to have like the lowest amount of, the highest amount of increased dodge cooldown rate. On light armors it usually goes up to 36% even, like on this piece, which is really cool because then you can get your dodge chance to, your dodge cooldown to around 3 seconds, which is quite cool because then you always have one dodge up for the 1.5 seconds uptime that it gives on the attack speed and on the damage bonus. On the armbands, again, light armor, preferably 1 or 2 resistances, attack speed, and very ideally you would want an increased physical damage here. I haven't found arm guards yet that have these stats, but I have seen some that have the stats as well, so you can get a combination of them. It's more important, in my opinion, to focus on getting a resistance in place. I think you want at least 50% on everything. You kind of don't need to have 60% everywhere, truthfully, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have on the boots. It's kind of important to have movement speed and increased movement skill cooldown rate. I think the game is rather slow in terms of movement, and having both of those really helps you to move around the map quickly in general. Ideally you'd want 2 resistances, but I only have 1 here, which is fine because it's quite rare to get like increased dodge rate on light armor as an implicit, and then also get like high increased movement speed and also increased movement skill cooldown. Then we have shoulders. Most important stat on shoulders is, apart from resistances, obviously the increased critical hit chance. This goes up to 30%, and you want as much as you can for that. And then just pick your resistances and base whatever you need. And on the chest armor, the most interesting stat, in my opinion, is having Vigor on. Because having Vigor on actually increases fitness, cunning, and resolve. And while fitness and cunning do increase the damage, and resolve is kind of whatever because we're not using fire or cold damage, it also increases your maximum health. And, well, Vigor is kind of cool because it also increases secondary attributes if it is on gear. If you get agility or might on gear, it does actually not increase the secondary attributes, which is a little bit sad, but that's why Vigor is quite good. Then you get some resistances, and you also pick up health if you can, and that makes a very good defensive torso, and also giving you a little bit of damage through Vigor. Medium armor does give a little bit more pierce and strike armor, so there's a little bit of a trade-off in changing the dodge chance for more armor. At a certain point, when your dodge has reached like less than 3.6 seconds, you can't really feel the difference. If it's then 3.6 or 3.4 seconds, you will basically have it up whenever you need it. On the potion, I like to have movement speed as secondary. It's only one second, but it does help when you're like trying to move out of the way somewhere. And it's actually quite interesting and fun. And also the plus health does definitely help in general. On the energy potion, we definitely want the increased maximum energy. This is quite important for when we are actually shooting, and especially against bosses. The plus 50 maximum energy is quite good, because it allows us to just have a bigger energy pool to get the boss down before energy is actually empty. That's also why we use the plus energy here. There's also a case to be made to use energy regeneration, but I think the plus energy is better because we then restore more energy with Moonclaw. I think if you don't have Moonclaw, you would probably rather want to get more energy per second to have like a more sustained and a more self-sustaining energy pool. There's also energy regeneration on helmets possible, so that's a thing to look out for. This character is quite optimized so far. I wouldn't say it's perfectly optimized. There's still like a little bit of way to go, and I do want to farm up a little bit to also have a little bit of a better overview on how good the gear can get. But I think in general, especially in terms of uniques and everything, I have everything that I would want. And it's a very fun build to play, and it's also very fast at farming, especially because you have active like Vanish and you have all the dashes. And I think Rogue in general is like a very mobile and unique feeling class. And I think Grimlock Games has really nailed it down on all of these things. And I feel like it's I have a little fun with Titan Quest so far, and I really appreciate Grimlock Games for a fellow German studio, which is always nice to support. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. And hope if you guys play Rogue and Warfare and you want to, give Trickshot a try, then feel free to do so. Alright guys, that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more Titan Quest 2 content, let me know in the comments. And otherwise, I might also be streaming some Titan Quest in the future, maybe. And I'm looking forward to what's going to come in Titan Quest 2, especially with the new updates that we have. I think Early Access does have a decent amount of content so far, but I'm very excited to see what more they can bring to the table. And hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.